But now let's go ahead and jump right into that game action that we do have going on right now. So, in case you guys have been living under a rock, we are seeing the very first college football game of the season for the 2023 season. It is not going to be played in the city of South Bend, Indiana. It's not going to be played in Annapolis, Maryland. Actually, now that I think about it, this game is not going to even take place in the continental United States. We are actually leaving the United States for this very first kickoff at 2:30 Eastern. We will start with our college football season with Navy taking on Notre Dame in Dublin, Ireland. Neutral site game to start things out. It's going to be on NBC. Navy coming off of a 4-8 record. They did end up firing their head coach. They did promote their defensive coordinator up to that head coaching position. Well, Notre Dame, they do have the aforementioned, they still have the same head coaches last year. They will still have Marcus Freeman, Wayne High School, Huber Heights, in Huber Heights, Ohio kind of alumni as well. He'll be back leading the team. So very excited about how the start of this season is going to go. Notre Dame and Navy. And these two teams actually did go play against each other in South Bend last year, if I'm not mistaken. This was actually a shootout between these two teams, and Notre Dame won, but it was closer than what the folks had it. Notre Dame ended up winning. It was 35-32. It was a surprising shootout, one that Navy was almost able to pull off, but it's a brand new season. What is new with this brand new season? Well, like I said, Notre Dame, they got some new cogs on the offensive side of the ball, and most notably, they got Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman, of course, was the quarterback for Wake Forest coming into this year. He already has close to 8,000 yards the past two seasons at Wake Forest, and also has a touchdown to interception ratio of about 3-1. So this is someone that is going to be a major upgrade on the offensive line for the quarterback position. They were stuck with Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner. Tyler Buckner, I never believed really was the guy per se, and Drew Pine was fine. Drew Pine is not Sam Hartman. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this particular Notre Dame team, right? So very excited about that portion of it. We'll go ahead and check what the line has and how this is going to work. I'm going to show the game line for every game that we preview, the over-under, and then also what does the any given Saturday power ranking line have? Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that portion. So Notre Dame is listed as a 20.5 favorite. And as of right now, the over-under is listed at 50.5 going into this game. So how I kind of want to break this down is I want to start with if there's an upset in this game, because it's college football. When you got 18 to 22-year-old kids lining up against each other on a football field, they're young men, but they're still, learning how to be adults, right? So when you get kids on the field, essentially, you get more variety in results. So how does this upset happen? We'll start with Navy. So I think there is a few key components in terms of how Navy is going to pull off this upset if they are going to get the job done, right? So first and foremost, if Navy is going to win against Notre Dame, first and foremost, they have to have a dominant running game. Now, this Navy offense is going to be a little bit different than what it was last year. Expect to see a little bit more wrinkles in this triple option attack, so could be a little bit more balance between the rush and the pass, but 80 to 90% of the time, I still expect Navy to run the football in that traditional triple option set. So what that tells me is that Navy is still going to rely very heavily on the running game. And for Navy to win this game, they need this rushing attack to be absolutely dominant. Last year, Navy was 4th in the country in running the football, which it's fine, which is really nice. I mean, top 5 out of 130 plus teams. It sounds fantastic. However, they hardly pass the ball at all. So when all you do is run the football, 241 yards per game is just not going to be enough. Now, not too long ago, this Navy team was a very strong team, a team that was getting a college football playoff consideration, or at least getting ranked in the college football playoff polls. Back in 2019, pre-COVID, they went 11-2, and how they managed to do that, they were number 1 in the country in running the football. They ran it for 361 yards a game. They also scored 52 touchdowns. So for Navy to win this game, the first ingredient for this upset is that they're going to have to be dominant in running the football. So Notre Dame, we know Notre Dame is going to be improved on the defensive side of football. Marcus Freeman is a defensive coach. He has a defensive background, was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, was a defensive coordinator at Cincinnati before that. For Navy to win this game, they need to run it for at least 260 yards, because out of 12 games that Navy played last year, they only pulled that off twice. So if they can find 260 yards on the ground, that's going to be the first ingredient of success. The next big key for Navy to pull this upset off is that you're going to have to limit Notre Dame's ability to hold on to the football. So it's a 60-minute game, and luckily, Navy is more than capable of doing that, even though they weren't as good as maybe what they traditionally are in terms of running the football, right? So Navy last year averaged about 35 minutes of time of possession compared to their opponents who averaged 25 minutes a game. So limiting the possessions that Notre Dame is going to have, keeping your defense fresh, that's going to be extremely important as well, because Navy, so recruiting for military academies is a lot different than traditional college football teams, because you're not necessarily recruiting guys to be football players first, if that makes sense. You're recruiting guys that are going to be part of your military, and the type of body that is required to serve in the U.S. military is typically different than what you are going to get for someone that you're trying to find specifically to play college football. So at Navy, it's that, serving the military first, college football comes second. So why that's really important to keep Notre Dame off the field is we know Notre Dame is going to have one of the best offensive lines in the entire country. And Notre Dame is coming in, they're going to have some guys that are, 260 pounds as nose tackles, right? That's not, they're going to have a size disadvantage, a pretty decent size advantage in the trenches right away. So really important that you kind of keep your defense, you kind of protect your defense in the way by sustaining long drives. And on those long drives, you got to come out with points, some type of points. Doesn't have to be touchdowns every single time, but you got to come away with field goals. We're talking about 5, 6, 7-minute drives for the majority of the game. That's what you need to do. Really limit this game, because the less possessions that there are, the more likely it is for Navy to win this game. If there's more possessions, that's going to favor Notre Dame. A third thing, too, on top of that is Navy just has to start better. I got a stat in front of me for 2022, one of the fun stats, I should say. So in 2022, out of all the games that Navy played, at the end of the first quarter, Navy was outscored 81-43. Because of how their offense is built, Navy has to get off to a decent start. If it's one of those starts where it's the end of the first quarter and Notre Dame is up 14-3 or 10-0, if it's a 2-possession lead before the end of the first quarter, it could be a long day for this Navy squad, because their offense is simply not built to go out and come back. They're not built to try to work their way back into games. They have to start off stronger. If they don't, it's going to be a long day. Now, going to the overside, going over to Notre Dame, I think the big thing for Notre Dame, if they want to come out and win this game, we got to start with that rushing game. Notre Dame was 7-0 last year when running for more than 150 yards. If they can get to that 150-yard mark for running the ball, then they're going to be in good shape, and they have an offensive line capable of doing just that. However, when they didn't run for 150 yards, they ended up going 2-4 last year. So, like I said, if they can get that ground game going, that's going to help Sam Hartman out because, yeah, Sam Hartman is an elite quarterback. But at the same time, that being said, he's going into a new offense. And also, who's Sam Hartman going to be throwing this football to? Michael Mayer left for the NFL. There's talent. Don't get me wrong. There is certainly a high level of talent for sure. But that being said, we have to consider these receivers need to step up. Who's going to do that? Who's going to be that guy? We don't know yet. We absolutely do not know yet. But that being said, this team should be pretty good. This Notre Dame squad should be a pretty good-looking team. I mean, the offensive tackles, we talked about how good that offensive line is. They're going to be more experienced. They should be even better. There's a young talent that's going to be around Sam Hartman. Defense should be even stronger than last year. So how do I legitimately think this game is going to go? Now, I'm saying all of this, that Northwestern Nebraska game, it was a really fun game to watch, and we expected Nebraska to win big. And that also turned out to be the last victory in the Pat Fitzgerald era as well. So I think it's one of those games where it could be close in the first quarter. And then when we get into that second, third quarter, right before half, more likely, I expect to see that front seven for Notre Dame get comfortable with playing against a triple option because it is not an offense that you see every single day. It's simply not something that you're used to seeing. So I think it will be a quarter of adjustment, but starting that second and third quarter, late second, early third quarter, I think we start to see Notre Dame possibly pull away. And at the same time, I also believe that because they're going to be more balanced offensively, it's going to open up that grounded game. And if you can get that grounded game going, that's going to really set the tone. This might be a game where Sam Hartman doesn't have to go off and throw for like 350, 4 touchdowns, that type of game. I think they'll be just fine. Now, the Any Given Saturday line has this at 44.5. Not sure if it's going to be a 40-plus win, but I would be pretty comfortable with picking Notre Dame to win this game personally, just because I think offensive line is going to control the trenches, so that's going to allow the run game to get going. Sam Hartman is going to be able to make some of the plays that Drew Pine or Tyler Buckner wasn't able to make last year, and the defense will be better. So last year, it was just a field goal game. I expect this to be more than just a field goal win for Notre Dame, and I expect them to go 1-0 after their trip to Dublin, Ireland. But very intrigued to see what kind of changes that Navy makes on the offensive side, because they did bring in a new offensive coordinator, something to definitely keep an eye out for.